Okay, cool. Okay, so how are you, Katrien?
Good. Hanging in there. Lockdown is driving us a bit nuts, but we're getting through it as best we can. And you guys?
We are very well, very well. We stuck at home as everyone else, and we're trying to keep kids busy. That's basically our daily tasks. Is nothing else. Nothing else makes us as busy as kids. I mean, I feel so bad for all the teachers, to be honest, because I know what my kids does to them on daily basis. So thank you so much, all the teachers, especially at Forest Academy. Good job. I just want to first tell everyone how we met Katrien, and then we're gonna jump into the discussion about how basically wedding planners can help you during these crazy times, and not only during the crazy times, because pretty much everyone now is still want to get married, so all of the weddings are postponed. I haven't heard yet, hopefully, cross fingers, about any cancellations. So everyone now is postponing the weddings. Basically, we met Katrien a few months back at Lillebrook Manor. She put together amazing shoot we did there. That was rustic barn shoot with very young couple from Australia. They back home now. We keep in touch. They very nice people, to be honest. And that's actually the only people who makes us jealous on Instagram every day. And and yeah, so what we did shoot together a year ago, and since that we keep in touch. We basically try to work together and try to see if we can help each other and build a community and a little bit relationship around wedding planners and wedding industry. Yeah.
Pretty much. I think that summed it up very well.
Yeah. So, Katrien, can you tell us a little bit about planning a wedding during the pandemic?
Look, I can tell you it's a challenge. So now, funnily enough, you see a lot of people are starting to plan weddings. Most people have some spare time in their hands. You've got a lot of people looking at 2021 weddings. A lot of venues have potentially started talking about opening up their 2022 dates. And a lot is happening around postponing weddings. Obviously, the couples that are affected during this wedding season, be it in the UK or South Africa, depending on where your wedding is. So I specialize in South African destination weddings, but I do UK weddings as well. The key at the moment is just to keep an open mind, to be flexible, like work around plan Bs and plan Cs, and just chat to all the suppliers and make sure that you find something that works for everybody. And if it doesn't work for everybody, your couples need to go and prioritize and decide what's important to them, and then build their plan B wedding around that. So it is a bit of a challenge, and it is juggling a lot more logistical issues than normally. But I think everyone is very open-minded, and all the wedding suppliers that I personally work with really try and accommodate couples as best they can. I mean, wedding suppliers are amazing, and we're all about making couples have the best time that they possibly can on the wedding, and giving them memories that they can cherish for the rest of their lives. And just as with any other season or any other year, during this pandemic, we're trying to do the same.
Yeah, I think these times communication is more important than ever before. I mean,
Oh,
we
definitely.
normally what we did, we never spoke that much. Obviously, emails are on regular basis, but we never spoke nearly face to face on Zoom meetings, WhatsApp calls, there's WebEx, Skype, WeChat, so many different types. So we never had so many meetings held never ever before. I mean, and obviously everyone is happy to do that. First of all, they have plenty time as us, and they and people want to socialize, so they get used to all of one. Everyone's got so many apps now on the phone or on the computer. They're literally everywhere, and they're giving opportunities like Instagram now, or I think Google's Hangout. I mean, there's so many of them. I've got my daughter keep us up to date because she got all of them there, and she basically give us a directory. Daddy, you're not using Google Hangout yet. I mean, I'm not. I've used Google G Suite, but not this. So communication is, I think, never ever been that important as now.
Oh no, definitely. Look, communication in a planner's role is key and center of anything and everything. Without that, things just fall. But like you said, at this point in time, it is integral. And like I said, planning weddings at this point in time is more challenging, and people need to be more flexible. So we don't know what's going to happen in 6 months' time. We don't know what's going to happen in 12 months' time. And the couples you work with are looking for some sort of guidance from you. And we can only go by what we think may or might happen. It might be smaller weddings. It might be weddings of 50 people in 6 months' time can happen. It can be weddings of only 30 people or 100 people. We don't know. So we're trying to build wedding plans that are flexible around what may happen.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I had a discussion with one of the brides on the biggest Facebook groups. She asked when shall we send the invitation, and actually I answer, as soon as you know the date or as soon as you have anything in mind, save even virtual save the date card, just to avoid not only disappointment from your side that someone is not coming, but just to avoid basically your wedding not happening, because nowadays guests they don't know. I mean, we always have a guests coming from abroad or overseas, and imagine what about restrictions? What about all of that happening? So as soon as you have the date in mind, not even on paper, not even penciled, save the date card, gonna be like even two. She was like, yes, but my wedding is in 2022. I was like, yes, but it doesn't really matter. You plan that way ahead to avoid all of these things happening, even though you don't know, and you want your wedding to happen as best as possible. So you want these guests to be informed as earliest as they could have this kind of information. So yeah. What do you think, Katrien? Weddings UK or weddings abroad?
Oh, I'm biased. You can't ask a South African whether you need to have a wedding in the UK or a wedding, in my opinion, in South Africa. But in all honesty, it depends on what you want. Sometimes you've got guests that won't be able to make it overseas. You want a really large wedding, and you can't see that 150 people are going to get on a flight across halfway across the world. If you're looking for something possibly smaller and you want guaranteed amazing wedding weather, then I would definitely go with an abroad wedding. If you have weddings where I specialize in, which is South Africa, your budget can stretch way further than it can in the UK. So if you really want that dream wedding with all the bells and the whistles, and you want to make it the most amazing day ever, then I'd go definitely South Africa. But if you are born and bred British and your heart lies here and you know the country and your people are here, and you're not that fussed about having a destination experience wedding for all your guests, there's a London city wedding, in my opinion, is absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
It all depends on what you want.
So what do you think, what is the best in destination weddings?
Pardon?
What do you think then? What is the best thing about destination weddings?
Oh, it's just the experience. Having, I was speaking to a bride probably about 4 or 5 months ago, before all of this pandemonium started, about a wedding next year, potentially in the mid next year somewhere. And she's having 120 people all fly across to South Africa. And it's just like making a whole weekend out of it. And all the friends and the family are either doing small little trips and holidays in South Africa after the wedding, and their entire family are all staying for 2 weeks in the Cape post the wedding. So it's just this amazing big, I'm going to call it a soiree, or a week long of festivities that just you'll remember for a lifetime. Not that a wedding will be forgotten if you have it over here, but it just elevates it to a whole different level, in my opinion. And the weather's amazing.
Yeah, you have amazing weather. You have amazing pictures and video as well. And what I like the most about destination weddings is, first of all, it's free holidays for me. So, so yeah, this is what happened when I've been to Thailand. 6 days away from this. I mean, it was, as far as I remember, October or November, and here was freezing cold, 7 degrees. As soon as the plane opened in Bangkok, 32.
It's like this wall of heat just hits
amazing
you.
I mean, everyone was complaining, all of the people on the airport complaining it's too hot or that. We were like no way, it's beautiful. It's we like a paradise, like the same as Dubai. We were there, was 36, and everyone was complaining on the pool or on the beach, there's too hot today. And we were like, no, beautiful. It was in February. And no, it was September actually, and here was 10 degrees, as far as I remember. So it could be this year. I think weather is more predictable, and during this crazy time, I mean, a couple of months, we've been having amazing weather. So at least that helps.
Yeah. Look, another thing that you need to think of, that I just thought of in terms of destination weddings, especially going to warmer countries, is as a bride or a groom, depending on what you want to wear. Like here, obviously, if you're wearing a suit and it's you're used to the weather, so that's fine. But if you're going to fly out to a country that's 30 odd degrees and you're planning on wearing a full-on wedding dress and you're like tie, suit, trousers, clothes, shoes, everything, it's going to get hot.
Exactly.
So yeah, so the bonus is your cooler months, which generally tend to be off season in South Africa, which are much cheaper to actually plan and have a wedding, tend to be more forgiving to British nationals, or to the British. So that's also a big bonus for
absolutely. So what do you think, Katrien? What's the most valuable thing you can bring as a wedding planner if someone planned a wedding abroad?
Look, planning a wedding abroad is a challenge in itself. Well, planning a wedding is a challenge in itself. There are so many things that people don't think about, and so many things to tick off from a list. You've got photographers, venues, catering, bar, wait staff, the list just goes on.
Yeah.
Planning a wedding on your own is very doable, but you need to know the country, you need to know the suppliers. If you plan a destination wedding, the challenge is you don't understand how people operate in the country. You don't have a network of friends in the country that can recommend suppliers. You don't want to end up with someone that's not well suited to you and that doesn't work very well and doesn't understand your wedding vision and what you want to get out of your wedding. So as a destination wedding planner, it's my job to make sure that I know all the suppliers. I make sure that they suit you and that the personalities gel and that everyone's kind of on the same page. Another benefit is I know what things cost in the country, so I know how to budget properly for a South African wedding versus a UK wedding, which is two completely different things. So that is one of the key things for destination weddings. And then I come with a whole bag of knowledge on what to wear for appropriate attire for the weather, when to have the weddings. I know all the venues, and so there is so much benefit in having a planner that knows the country that you're going to get married in. Some people do opt to go and have or use the services of a planner that's actually based in the country that they are going to get married in. I'm obviously based in London and plan weddings in London and in South Africa. The bonus of someone like me is I do face-to-face meetings on the side, and I have my team on the ground in South Africa that does all the legwork on that side. So it's almost best of both worlds. You know who you're working with on this side, and I know who you're working with on that side.
Exactly. I mean, you mentioned when to do wedding and how to plan it. I think itinerary, from my experience from destination wedding, I think itinerary was the biggest challenge for the couples from UK to do to plan a wedding in abroad, especially in exotic countries like South Africa, Thailand, places, India, places like that, because they know it's hot, they know it's harsh light, they know it's they know all of that what is happening. But on the other hand, I thought that they want to avoid it, so they were trying, as from my experience, they were trying to do itinerary that way, just to have things. For example, from my point of view, I always look at itinerary for the best possible light, for the best possible position of anything what can happen. Imagine the wedding ceremony, outside wedding ceremony, let's say on the beach, and couple wants to have it midday. So it could be challenging. I mean, I could shoot, it's no problem at all, but then they ending up in the full beam sun, 40 degrees. I mean, sun going to be even more. And in a suit or in a full tree suit, and and I've seen it. So
Wow.
cake which is melting like big time, but because wedding planner who is there, stationary, or wedding coordinator is saying yes, yeah, no problem, we can do it, absolutely. I mean, and I know these days it will happen even more. I tell you why, because venues are prepared to say yes. Venues are prepared, venues coordinators and venues anywhere, they're prepared to say yes to everything, just to have this, just to have the business. So
that's one thing. I have to be honest, if I'm looking at people that I work with and people that I source for suppliers, they aren't traditionally your say yes kind of people.
oh really? Okay.
They will make sure, because it's their brand and it's either their their venue or their photographs or their cake or whichever element of the wedding they're providing. They will always advise the bride and groom, and the planners as such will always advise the bride and groom the best route to go and to avoid situations like that, to avoid having ceremonies over the heat of the day or anything that could lead to a bit of a problem. So in my experience and the venues that I would work with, not so much yes people. So they tend to have the best intentions and want to get the best out of the wedding for the couple. It's a lot of money that gets spent on one day.
Absolutely, yeah.
And you want it to be perfect or as close to perfect as possible. And that's why I only recommend people that aren't going to just say yes for the sake of saying yes, but rather have someone be honest, be open, be clear about what works, what doesn't work. Because if you're coming from abroad, you don't know. And that's why you get suppliers you can trust and suppliers that know what works and when it works. And someone that will tell you yes, no, but also give you context and make you understand and come with alternatives and solutions. And like maybe we can't do a 3 p.m. 12 p.m. ceremony on the beach, but maybe this can work rather than that.
That's cool. Do you have any favorite venues in South Africa and UK, London?
Look, London is filled with amazing venues. I love the smaller, intimate venues that you get, and you get these amazing venues like Trinity Boy Wharf, which is just gorgeous with the industrial feel to it. My heart lies in South Africa when it comes to venues, and I do have a couple of favorites. Although to say favorites is so difficult because it's like you said, it's from the ocean through to the mountains, through to the bush. It's spoiled for choice, but there are a couple. Hawksmoor House, which sounds ridiculous if you say it like this. It's just this beautiful country house that has these amazing pools and it just makes some of the most beautiful photos that you've seen in ages. And they've got accommodation for so many guests on the farm. So everyone stays on the farm. You've got this big feast of a party on the farm. And it's just a very traditional South African venue. And then if you want to go all the way to the other side of the spectrum and you want to have a wedding that's opulent and completely magical, there's a venue called Blaukippen, and they have this cathedral-styled clear tent.
Okay.
So you can see the stars all the way through, and it's jaw-dropping, absolutely amazing. And one that's also I should definitely mention is a venue called Zorgvliet, and it sits on a mountain pass between Stellenbosch, which is my hometown, and Franschhoek. So it's in the middle of the winelands, and the team there are phenomenal, and they're all about service, and the venue itself is just gorgeous. It's a winery, so that just makes everything.
That's a place. That's a place for us.
Yes, it's a place for me too.
By the way, I just wanted to keep it on the end, but you mentioned, what wine would you recommend for your clients?
Oh,
your favorite?
My favorite. Oh my goodness, this is. I'm a white wine drinker.
Okay.
Firstly, and then secondly, a red wine drinker. However, I've become more appreciative of red wine since moving to the UK, given the cooler climate. There is a wine called a Baroness Nadine, made by Rupert and Rothschild. It's in the Franschhoek, just as you come out of Stellenbosch into Franschhoek. They've got a winery over there, and I actually do know the winemaker.
Oh, really?
She's amazing. Yes, it's a she. It's just the most amazing blend. It's a blended wine, but it's got a hint of Chardonnay to it, which I love. And then there's Plaisir de Mille, which has amazing red wine. So those two absolutely beautiful wines. And Plaisir de Mille do weddings as well. If you ever want an amazing wedding with a marquee tent on a winery in Franschhoek, absolutely beautiful.
All right, beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so. So red over white this time.
No, still white over red. Oh, you're red over white.
I mean, we red. We prefer red wine. I mean,
you're gonna have to drink a Baroness Nadine. You're gonna have to get yourself a bottle of that, and it might swing you.
Yeah.
So we're South Africans are all about food,
yeah,
and wine, and our weddings tend to be all about food and wine.
That's good.
Not the British weddings aren't. I'm a big fan of a wedding breakfast and so forth, but South Africans and food and weddings and wine is something else. We have feast to table weddings where you just have platters of food coming, and it just gets passed down the table, and it's big platters. And the chefs that we have for weddings, the ideas that they come up with and the things they do, it's amazing. The concepts, it's from food stalls, because the food in South Africa is so diverse, and you've got the ocean so close to you, and you've got the vineyards, and you're just spoiled for produce. You find the food quality is just out of this world, and to be honest, a fraction of the cost that you'd have to pay in the UK to get that same food experience. I know one of the chef companies, one of the chefs that I've spoken to last week with regards to wedding, they do gelato bars.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, that's amazing. So they do gelato bars, eat and mess bars. So it's little stalls that they set up, and each stall has a completely different theme to it. And then they have traditional South African desserts, which I need to still send you recipes of. You'll absolutely love it. All kinds of mini little versions, and people just wander in between dessert stations and pick and choose what they want. It's like we're all about food and wine.
That's cool. That's cool. I mean, I think wedding in general is the feast of best food possible anywhere you are. I mean, obviously we attend smaller and bigger weddings, sit down and stand up meals. Some like more finger food, or sit down 10-course meals and stuff. Polish weddings as well. There are normally is.
Good. It's just food.
Everywhere. Yeah, normally a wedding package. First of all, venues normally supply food as well, so there is no external catering companies, and normally food is unlimited, so they just top up whatever is finishing, and basically it's all sort of going through, starting from wedding breakfast in Poland is basically dinner, but starting from that, a meal is coming every couple of hours, and then in between that you have still food on the table, as well as hot and cold, and you have these tables with the like sausages, cured meat, sour stuff, and fresh fish, or smoked fish, smoked meats and stuff, and obviously sweet tables. And the thing is, midnight, 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock, there's still food coming, still warm food, and the wedding finish around 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. So
we've got a traditional thing in South Africa called it's not a barbecue.
Okay.
But it is the same concept. It's called a braai.
Okay.
And what a braai is, it's like a barbecue, but it's not. It's normally with proper wood, and so an open fire, and people tend to stand around the fire for hours whilst having a beer or a glass of wine, and people generally get disgruntled by 3 hours later because no one's had food yet, and then the meat goes on. So it's more about the socialization around it. But amazing, a lot of the weddings in South Africa tend to do late night food, so midnight snacks that come running out, and that's normally just come off a braai. And on the braai you'd put anything from toasted breads to steaks to chops to everything, and that normally like round about midnight gets distributed all between the guests. It's absolutely amazing.
Is it because of the weather? Is it because it's hot during the day, so the food is coming later on, or is it just because food is later?
No, it's just because the guests stay that much longer. They would give them midnight snacks.
Okay. So you think, what do you think about destination weddings during this crazy COVID-19 situation? I mean, what I'm talking about is does the UK couples, I know they're still booking. We get inquiries, and we are within the group of photographers who are asking for, for second shooting, or for asking to take the job, or asking to refer you, or the other way, or vice versa. But do you think they still should look to book a destination wedding, or they should focus kind of like back off a little bit and stay within the UK?
Look, next year is going to be busy, regardless of which country you get married in. I feel that in terms of travel this year, I don't think it's going to happen for everyone. I don't think you're going to easily get on a plane and fly and have a summer holiday or have anything like that with ease. So if you are a couple that may have needed to postpone your wedding, or to a 2021 date, or 2022 even, or if you are looking to get married 21, 22, I would definitely recommend a destination wedding. Your 21 dates this side, it's full. It's getting fuller by the minute. A lot of venues are doing midweek weddings
absolutely.
to accommodate Monday, couples.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday,
exactly.
Saturday, Sunday.
There you go. So it's full, and it's not. I'm not saying it's not going to be the same situation somewhere else, but with guests or people not having been able to travel this, to be able to offer guests or your friends or family the option to go and have an amazing destination wedding and double that up with an amazing holiday that we weren't able to have this year, it's just like that to me makes perfect sense. Another thing to consider as well is a lot of people might be slightly more cash strapped or not be able to spend as much as they would normally on their dream wedding in the UK. And let's face it, weddings can get expensive. A wedding can cost as little or as much as you want it to in the end. But once again, if you've got this certain picture in your mind, and there are a few non-negotiables that you want, and you want to achieve this vision, then you might be better off going to a country like South Africa. It's got a very good exchange rate, and the pound does stretch very far, and you can get that exact same wedding with an amazing holiday attached to it for a fraction of the price and amazing weather. So you'd find that because it's South Africa's southern hemisphere and Britain northern hemisphere, your seasons are opposite. So whilst all your couples may be looking at summer weddings this side, you can have a summer wedding in South Africa during winter. So your guests might also still be able to travel and not have many other weddings booked at the same time, and or have other social obligations. So in terms of dates, you'd have more flexibility. In terms of budget, you'd have more flexibility. So in my mind, it's a definite go, but I would recommend to look towards the second half of 2021 and not the first half. Give things a bit of time to stabilize first and suss things out. But definitely second half of 2021 going on to 2022, definitely destination weddings, in my opinion.
Okay, cool. So tell me, what happens if the couple hires you and the date change? What do you do normally?
So it's interesting. I'm in that situation at this point in time. I'm lucky that, and as with many other planners, we tend to work. Some work alone, but I work in a team. I've got support staff for my support team in South Africa, and if the dates change, there's more than one person that's able to run the wedding on the day. So we are absolutely fine to accommodate a change in date. We also have other trusted suppliers that can step in and help out if the dates are a big conflict. If it's a really large wedding, we tend to like to get other suppliers in to assist anyway. More hands on deck just makes things easier to manage. So we're flexible in terms of changing dates. The main priority for us is to communicate to all the other suppliers and to make sure as many of the original suppliers are able to do the new date, and then get additional suppliers in where the original ones aren't able to. But we're flexible.
Okay, that's cool. There is one thing we discussed actually before we started this video. We talk about wedding planning process, and I was always thinking the wedding planners step in on the very beginning of wedding planning process. But Katrien mentioned to me that actually during this time, and it could be really helpful that wedding planner step in for them, just to actually finish the job, just to actually put all the suppliers together, because 2021 we're going to be busy for all the suppliers. That's firstly. Hopefully busy for us. I mean, it is busy, but we all know what's going on, and just finish off and putting things together and coordinating the whole day.
Yeah. So when people think of wedding planners, they have this idea that you get engaged, you get a planner, and they do everything from A to Z, and that is an option. But we all need to be realistic and say not everyone can afford that, B, wants to do that. Couples may want to be more hands-on. I know when I planned my own wedding, but I really wanted to enjoy that process and be part of it and not have someone else do it for me. However, I really didn't want to worry the week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks before my own wedding about all the details. I wanted to relax. I wanted to be done with it. I knew what was going to happen and how it was going to happen. I just wanted someone else to do it and take care of it. You don't want to be worrying about seating charts and about guests running late and about catering mishaps at the back on your own wedding day. I had a wedding last year in Hackney at this amazing industrial venue, and the chefs that came in, the ovens weren't as compatible as they should have been with the electricity, so everything tripped in the kitchen. So we had about 2 hours of no food being made. And for an Italian wedding with no food, that's just, you can't have it.
It Where's my food?
Where's my
Exactly.
so we needed to make quick plans and get extra lead cables in, and we ran power from a next door building. It was like the fastest hour and a half of my life, but we managed to get it all sorted. Now, as a bride or a groom, you don't want to know about that. You don't want to worry
Absolutely.
about that, and you don't want to need to have to fix that. So, and this is where your wedding planners come in. So we do full planning, which is that A to Z. We recommend everyone and anything that you may need. We help you build this entire vision. We work with your budget, and we put everything together. We also do partial planning, which is you have the venue, you've got a couple of suppliers, be it you've got the photographer already or you've got catering, but you're missing a couple of elements. So then we hop on board somewhere in the middle and we help you finish it up. And then we do on the day. And that's normally, we jump in either, depending on how complex the wedding is, either a month ahead of the wedding or 2 weeks. And you give us everything that you've done, everything that you've planned. We run through it and we say, this works, that works, this doesn't, let's change this a little bit. Or we keep everything as is if you want, and we take over from there. So it gives you the freedom to plan your own wedding, do everything that you want to do and how you want to do it, and then leave the nitty-gritty and the hard work on the day itself to a planner, to someone professional that knows how to manage and how to troubleshoot and how to fix things. And the last thing you want to be doing is standing at midnight counting plates to go back to a supplier on your wedding day. Worst case scenario ever. But yeah, so that is. I'm surprised you didn't know that.
I mean, I knew that, but I was not thinking of that. And you just opened my eyes that it is really good. It could be really helpful, especially during this time, because it is in general, it is helpful. It is things, but obviously when someone wants to, it's now we're not talking about how much it costs. Now we're talking if it's happened at all. So once you step in to put the things together in the end, and some of the couples could be desperate to look for some suppliers to look to put the things together, and it could be that final touch could be even more important that that the starting process as it used to be before. It used to be before.
The funny thing, the same wedding that I did in Hackney where the power tripped last year. This was an amazing wedding. But the whole table layout was set up in a courtyard. And when I walked in there, I'm like, you can't have this. And they're all blissfully unaware, and then we don't understand why not. I'm like, the sun comes from this side. And if the sun comes over during lunch, your tent only goes this far. So half your guests are going to sit in the blazing heat for the entire duration of lunch. So we flipped everything around, and it was the hottest day of the year. So they would have ended up with a whole lot of burnt heads.
Like me.
Had we not stepped in. So it's the little things that we come in and help with that like you may not necessarily think of on the day, and it's things you don't want to be worried about. But yeah, so that is one of our services that we do.
So basically, yes, I just want to ask, you mentioned people forget about such a thing. What is the most common thing people forget when planning a wedding?
If you're doing your own bar, you need glasses.
No, you're joking.
I'm not.
People forget about this.
They forget. If you're like everyone tells me, oh, but it's easy. You can just go to you can get a lot of alcohol on consignment, and we can get someone that can pour the alcohol, and we don't need to get a bar company in to do everything. This is how, if you've got your dry hire venues, which means you get an empty shell and you need to bring everything in. And it's like so much cheaper than getting a bar company. Oh, yes, you need to get glasses as well, remember, and ice. Glasses and ice.
Ice is important, yeah, absolutely.
So that's one of the things. And look, it depends on the season, the month of what's happening. But funniest thing is glasses that people forget about. But so many other things. The rings, wedding transport, and like who transports things around.
Okay.
That's one of the biggest things. I have a lot of people that talk about, we can reuse these elements over here and you can reuse this. So if you're doing a lot of furniture rentals coming in, yes, but you need someone to carry furniture from point A to point B in between the different sections, parts of the wedding, which is fine, it's doable, but just remember you need to have someone that does that. Someone needs to know that after the reception, after the ceremony, the flowers need to be taken and carried across to the reception. And someone needs to be given that task. The last thing you want to do is have your dance floor with the amazing cake standing in the middle of the dance floor. Bride and groom walks in, cake gets cut, and someone announces and they're going to open the dance floor and the cake stands and no one fetches the cake.
Oh my God.
So now you've got to it's like, what's happening here? There's slightly awkward silence until the penny drops that someone needs to remove the cake. So it's those little final touches, finer details that people tend to forget about, and to have people assigned to do those things. It might not be staff that you have on the wedding, such as wait staff. You might not have waiters or a whole lot of staff for your wedding, but it might be parties of the bridal party, groomsmen, uncles, aunts, cousins. Each one needs a job, and make sure that they know what they need to do. So that's one of the big things that gets forgotten.
Okay, cool. I've got one more question.
Sure.
Katrien, what do you think? How many bridesmaids is too many bridesmaids?
There's no such thing.
So how many bridesmaids you've seen? How many bridesmaids you've seen the most?
Look, I haven't seen. I spoke to a bride the other day that had 10.
Okay.
Which I think it's a hefty number. 10 is a lot. It's all depending on culture, depending on your personal preference, depending on your budget and what you want out of your wedding. I spoke to, about a month ago, actually last week, I spoke to a bride. We're in the process of, we're fingers crossed the wedding is going ahead because it's in October, but we're making plans for plan Bs. And we needed to have a chat about bridesmaids because we're doing tables and so forth. And she said she doesn't like the concept of bridesmaids because she can either have 40, which is all her friends. She doesn't like to choose. So it's all her friends. Or she can have none.
Okay.
Because she's not fussed about it. But her husband to be, so the groom, is he's got 6 and he's adamant. Either 3 bridesmaids or 6 bridesmaids, but it needs to match.
Okay.
But she said she'd happily have 40, but that she thinks might be a little bit excessive.
That's maybe too many, yeah.
So I think 40 might be too many.
40 may be too many, and I think, I mean, what we shoot, I think it was the most was 10. And the funny thing was they've been all dressed as angels, like very flashy, glittery angels. But that was a wedding, like a festival wedding in the backyard. I mean, I wish to have such a house with backyard because the backyard looks like Heathrow Airport. So huge, and but it were cool. But I think too many brides. It could be over 10. Over 12, it could be way too many.
Yeah, No, it does tend to get. I know a lot of the African weddings has really big bridal parties. But I think people nowadays tend to get a bit more sensible, and I see averages run about between 3 and 6. And that's kind of where the numbers sit.
I think the biggest problem is while bridesmaid think to have so many bridesmaids is they don't want to upset anyone. They want because it's like you mentioned 40, and it could be like, okay, because it's all her friends, and yeah, but you're gonna mention, yeah, but choose the maybe the closest friends, or maybe the closest the relatives who means to you most, or who are the closest with you now. You say, yeah, but I don't want to upset anyone. But my mom said, what we always advise is, this is your wedding. This is
Yeah.
your wedding. You're not doing wedding unless you do. That's different story. But you're not doing your wedding to make someone else happy, or not to upset anyone. This is the most amazing, the best day in your life, and we do enjoy. Want to enjoy being at your wedding, and while you are happy, we as a suppliers are happy as well. Simple as that.
So well, like I said earlier, wedding suppliers we are genuinely out there to make a bride and a groom's day as amazing as we possibly can. I don't know of any wedding suppliers that won't bend over backwards to make things happen for their brides and grooms. We're generally a nice bunch of people.
I mean, in general, yes, because if you are there, and if you're not there just for a year or two, just to make, few pounds, you are there because you enjoy. Because if not, you just move on, you just go somewhere else. I mean, it would be silly not to, because if you don't like, or if someone doesn't like weddings, I mean, I love events. I love when people have fun. Obviously, and I have fun with them. I jump with them. I dance with them. I do enjoy. I go
really there.
I mix. Yeah, I mix within people. And that's where the best things happening. That's where the best pictures happening. If you are between people, even if our cameras are big, because professional, we try to keep our gear as small as possible. Just to be as discreet as possible. And nowadays the technology allow us to do it, but we enjoy, and we enjoy being from the early morning to night, and we stay as late as possible just to have the best pictures possible taken. So, and best video, actually, because we do video as well. But yeah, so if someone doesn't like it, it's going to show up sooner or later. And it may be visible on the wedding itself. And what I always say to our couples, that we want you to recommend us. We want you to tell about us good things. And it could sound a little bit weird, but once we are at the wedding, this is the only thing they could do, because we are there for them, with them, and we basically enjoy. Yeah.
No, like, totally agree.
Yeah, so Katrien, thank you so much for joining tonight.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It's lovely to see you.
I hope to talk to you.
Feels like I've been out of the house.
I hope to talk to you soon.
Likewise.
Yeah.
Thank you for the time, really.
Absolutely, yeah. So book destination weddings, but the conclusion is think wise, have a backup plan, or let someone else to create backup plan for you.
So my top tips is, if you have a destination wedding, make sure to get someone that knows the area, understands the people, speaks the language, if it is a foreign language.
Yeah, absolutely.
During this current time, when you're planning your wedding, during this pandemic, keep in mind 2021 is booking up fast, so get a date in as soon as possible if you want 2021. Otherwise, be flexible, look at 2022. If you really want 2021, you may need to look at midweek weddings and prioritize what's important to you. So is it the catering? Is it the venue? Is it the photographer? what are you building your wedding around? What's the most important element? What is your non-negotiables? If you've got those down, the rest can fall away, but then at least you know, plan your plan B around that supplier or those suppliers. And lastly, communicate. Speak to your suppliers. Like I said, wedding professionals, we are here to bend over backwards for our clients and for our customers. We genuinely want you to have the best day that you could possibly have, and we will try everything to get everyone to work together to get to your plan B. But you need to be flexible, and sometimes things aren't going to go 100%. So be open-minded. So that's my top advice for planning wedding during this pandemic, and especially planning a destination wedding. So just communicate, be open, be honest, and know what you want and know what your non-negotiables are.
Okay, cool. Okay, thank you so much, Katrien.
It's a pleasure.
Have a good night.
You too. Cheers,
Absolutely.
Zibby.